Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm so excited about today's episode. It's about time we release this conversation. It was filmed about a year ago, but it's coming full circle. It feels right because I'm in the city where our guest is from. And this is a conversation that's more and more relevant, more and more important. And it's something we might talk about often, but I'm not sure how honestly we talk about this, our health, our hormones, and what it actually takes to heal. And this guest, she's incredibly special to me. She's a day one in this holistic integrative nutrition space for me as we studied together. And her name is Naihomy Jerez. She's a certified food and hormone health coach. She's a Bronx-raised Dominicana, a mama of two, and the host of Be Healthy Latinas podcast. Naihomy specializes in working with Latinx women and women of color, and she understands the cultural pressures, the generational patterns, and truly the unique challenges that we face when it comes to health, especially in this day and age where we must come together, we must look within, we must take our agency back and not rely on systems that may not have our best interest in mind. So for nearly 5 years now, she's been helping women reverse prediabetes, manage PCOS, navigate infertility, and reclaim their energy, all while working within the realities of life, not some idealized version of what wellness is, because health, healing is a nonlinear, often painful, brutal process of shedding, letting go, death, rebirth, and so much more. So you're about to hear a conversation that goes beyond the surface. We're going to talk about that deeper work, the foundational work that's required if we want to actually address lasting change. So we'll discuss the steps you can't skip if you're trying to heal. We'll talk about the difference between holistic medicine and a reductionist system, the system that we're used to, and why checking in with the body might be the most radical and important thing we can do. So if you've been confused or have heard conflicting advice like we all have, and you want to start making some changes that actually stick for you, then come grab a seat or sit on the floor. I like to do that. It feels grounding. Maybe get some tea, and let's drop in. Welcome back to Sort of Satwa. I'm Veronica Page, here to help cut through some of that confusion caused from the wellness industry so we can feel confident to choose what brings sustainable health and happiness. I was so sick I had to hide from the world until I discovered Ayurveda, a holistic healthcare system indigenous to India that continues to help people heal from seemingly incurable conditions. But I quickly learned it can be messy out here, y'all. From the coaching space to popularized and commodified wellness. So what really transformed my life was learning from some of the best Ayurvedic doctors, but also gaining the capacity in my own nervous system to discern, to follow my intuition and make the behavioral changes I needed to make every single day. Sort of Satwa integrates Ayurvedic principles, somatic relational healing, and conversations with others who are working to move forward in their field in a sustainable and holistic way. Together, we can strengthen our confidence and our intuition to choose what is really going to lead to happiness, health, and becoming truly successful, like F-U-L-L. So, if it feels true to you, I invite us to pause and take a deep breath. And let's drop in. So I'm really grateful to have you here, Nai.
Yes, thank you, Vern. I'm so excited to be here for this conversation.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, if you will, starting off with like what your passion is, that driving force as to why you're in this work, because coaching, we see a lot of people come and go, and there can be a lot of interesting pieces to it. So what's keeping you going in this work?
Yeah, so I didn't even know this was my journey. I always like to say it happened to me. And I know I DM'd you and like we text and stuff. You have been such a vital part of getting started, of sticking to it. Like Vern and I met virtually. We've actually still never met in person, but in 2020, during the pandemic, and we were doing our certification together, and like this is how I felt. Like we just kind of created space for each other in this new career industry that we were in. It was very new for me. And I didn't even know I was becoming a coach or being a health coach. I actually was quite embarrassed to find out that this is what I was becoming. Not anymore. I'm very proud of that now. And yes, we do see a lot of people come and go. And I've now been coaching for nearly 5 years. That's crazy. That's crazy to say. And what has kept me going is honestly the types of transformation that my clients get, the type of information and lifestyle shifts, skills, beliefs, habits that we build, and the way it leads for them to heal and to live a better life and to pass this on to other family members and create such a larger impact than just the ones that they have on themselves. And that for me is super fulfilling. It is something that I feel there's a lack of in our community, and there's a lot of people suffering with a lot of information that doesn't serve them. I won't say misinformation because certain things work for certain people, right? But I think that a lot of the information that is out in my community and that they're using doesn't serve them. And it's making them feel worse and not well and remain sick. And I feel like whenever I have such an impact like that for someone in my community and how that lives on, that keeps me going.
That's huge. How that lives on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful. So can you clarify, I mentioned this at the beginning, your community. I know you're Dominican and you serve the Latinx community. Can you tell us more about what that looks like as a coach, serving this in this space? What are people coming to you for mostly? And like you explained, big transformations, and how do they end up leaving?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do serve the Latinx community and honestly, women of color. I've worked with African American women, Indian women, Latina women, just a lot of different cultural backgrounds. And the big kinds of transformations that I'm talking about is when they suffer from things like prediabetes, when they have a severe lack of energy, where it's just hard to survive, when they are having a very hard time losing weight in a safe and effective and sustainable way, when they are missing their periods with something like PCOS, and the solution that the medical system is giving them is things like going on birth control and not really looking at the root cause of what's happening here. A few women with infertility issues where they're already in their late 30s, they really would like to have children, and it's like their last step before going into something like IUI or IVF, which is definitely an option, but sometimes they just want to try and have that happen in a more natural way. Those are just like a few of the things that I help my clients with, increasing their self-confidence. Like if you're not feeling well in your body, if you're always struggling, if you're confused as to what to eat and how to move, and you're stressed out day in and day out, it's hard to live an enjoyable life. It's hard to feel good about yourself. So yes, I've helped with all of these things along this journey.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that piece in around confidence, because without the confidence, I've noticed then making a shift in lifestyle can be really hard. can really take us back to square one and then square one. You mentioned some of the challenges that people come, like, I'm coming because I have PCOS. I'm coming because I'm not getting my period, and I don't want to go the Western route completely, and I don't want to be pumped with more medication. So this is my challenge, my problem that I'm coming to you with. And now we reach the point of, okay, we're going to make some changes. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? I'm sure this is maybe kind of how the discussions go. What do you find being a big barrier into making those changes? And then how does one overcome something like that?
Yeah. Ooh, the big barrier. I think that that's so layered. Like there's a few, right? I think one of the main ones is beliefs from childhood, beliefs of, family, society, how things should look like versus honoring themselves. Another barrier that I find often is finding the time, or inversely, like asking for support, right? Like, where do we find the time to do these things? Uh, Lack of education and knowledge in these spaces. And it's something that I do a lot of educating so that my clients can go on and make their own decisions. This is not a meal plan where it's like you do this and then you stop. The point is that you keep on going, that this becomes your lifestyle, that you are knowledgeable enough to make these decisions for yourself. And you get also to be more in tune with your body to understand what it is that it needs versus you pushing through or doing something that's totally the opposite of what your body's asking you to do. And another barrier is being the first one and going against the grain. And I feel like that was a big thing for me when you start making lifestyle changes, because again, I think that when it comes to a diet, everybody is okay with that. Everybody's like, oh, it's okay. In 30 days you'll be back. In 30 days you'll be drinking with us again. In 30 days you'll be binging with us again. In 30 days, like, I get it, it's a diet, right? But as soon as you start implementing boundaries as to this is a lifestyle and you're doing different things, you're eating differently, you're moving differently, and people start to question you, or you feel like you're not part of the community anymore, which is super important, then that becomes a big roadblock that then loops back to mindset and what we're taught and all that. So it just becomes this little loop of things that we kind of have to work through and break down, and see what it is that, people really want for themselves.
Mm, yeah, that's incredible. See what it is that people really want from themselves. Like, really want, actually. Do I want to perpetuate the ideas, the beliefs, the fears that were given to me in childhood from my ancestral trauma, and also
Mm-hmm.
systemic trauma, right? Like, do I want to continue to move from a place of fear that was given to me, that's been in my environment, my space, in my genes, right? Or do I actually want something different? And, oh, that's crunchy. It's like, oh, okay, that means I have to change my lifestyle. If I actually
Right.
want that thing, then I have to set those boundaries. Oh, shoot, that's really really powerful. And what I'm hearing from you is, because this is such a dense and crunchy subject, to be held in a container with you, right? With someone who has done this work, who had, like, yourself being the first one, or, going against the grain, it makes it that much more accessible. And we know this, right? Neuroscience has proved to us that when we see something already having happened, it makes it easier for our bodies, for our shift, for our confidence. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
confidence. If it's not there, it's really hard to break past those barriers. And even in, like, traditional medicines like Ayurveda, we understand to shift those waste products or doshas of the mind, it
Mm-hmm.
requires exactly what you said: knowledge, proper knowledge, understanding of the true nature, what's happening in nature, and knowledge of oneself. It also requires courage to be able to stay
Mm-hmm.
stay stable, and intellect. Like, can I just understand right and wrong judgment. So like everything that you're saying is really reflected in time-tested medicine, and then again being held in a container with someone who's safe, feels safe, and in so many ways can probably help move even further past those barriers. That's really, really powerful. Thank you. It's funny because you mentioned at the beginning too, you said I was kind of a little embarrassed to come out as a coach.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you.
Were you as well? Tell me your story.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, during that experience, at first I came out hot. I came out like, this is what I'm doing. And then very quickly humbled by how much knowledge and how much information. It's not just knowing about what the diets do to the body. It's not just understanding how the digestive system works or hormonal or endocrine system works. Yes, and everything that you've said, can I hold space for a person to get uncomfortable and to honestly fight back a bit, right?
Yeah.
Don't want to push these boundaries. So then there are layers and layers and layers. So quickly, it was very humbling to me, and to say, oh, what is a coach? What constitutes a good coach? Do I feel like I fit into that? Do I want to use that name anymore, even as well? Because this industry is getting pretty weird. Pretty
Yeah.
weird, I'll just say.
Yeah.
So, when you said that, I was kind of embarrassed. And then you're telling the story of what your clients probably experience, this like needing to shift lifestyles. Sounds like you went through that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious. Okay, you said, okay, we have our goal. I want to have a healthy womb, or I want to have a healthy hormonal system. I want to be able to cleanse properly every month or move into menopause, like perimenopause, menopause, with the least amount of aggravation, all layered with the fact that this is going to come with big lifestyle changes. How does one start navigating that process when you and I know it's going to be like years down the line? But what if you only have like 3 months with the person? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, people come to me at all different levels and or, spaces in their wellness journey. But one thing that have found throughout all these years that it doesn't matter what your end goal is. Doesn't matter if it's going in like, managing perimenopause or trying to get pregnant or anything like that. We need to really solve for the fundamentals of a lifestyle, like the lifestyle shifts. Like, what are you eating? Is it serving you? How are you moving your body? How are you managing your stress? How's your sleep? Things like that. So I think that going through the fundamentals, and this is actually why my coaching program, I transferred it to being 6 months long, because sometimes the 3 months is a lot of this foundational work that we then build upon. But I find that oftentimes there are things to clean up of what people are eating, or maybe they're not eating at all and is just trying to get them to eat more, right? Cleaning up what they're drinking and certain lifestyle habits that might be interfering with everything else. Like maybe it is very high stress and not knowing how to manage their stress capacity or set those boundaries, or their sleep is really off, which in turn is just causing this domino effect in the rest of their health and wellness. So working with the foundation fundamentals of just what are you eating? How's your stress management? Are you moving your body or not? How's your sleep? Can have already a humongous impact, a really impactful, I guess, impact or on their health, where they're feeling like they're progressing. Can we build on that for specific goals? Absolutely. But you can't get to level 15, 20, 25 without doing 1 through 10, right? And often 1 through 10 is what wants to be skipped and what's the hardest to work on, right? So I think it's that no matter where you start, and let's say I do have a short time with them, is addressing those fundamentals so that they are able to build on that and be able to, again, sustain that. Because if you're on shaky foundations, you don't know your why, you don't understand what your body's asking for, you don't know how to meet its needs or feed it or things like that, then it becomes really difficult. And I don't even think that's the most difficult part. I feel the most difficult part, like I mentioned before, is falling into peer pressure and going back to the older habits, because like they say, you're the average of, I don't know, the 5 people you hang out with or something like that. So if you are used to doing certain habits and living a certain lifestyle for your entire life, and you're around the similar people who are living those similar lifestyles, whether it's friends, family members, whoever, colleagues, and you only have a small amount of time practicing this new lifestyle that actually is benefiting you greatly, then the hardest part, I think, oftentimes is just not falling back into old patterns because of the influence of everybody else around you.
This is huge. This is like gold, truly, to sit with a big truth that a lot of people don't want to sit with. That healing, if you want to do it in this way, a holistic way, or a way that's pulling from the roots, then it requires steps 1 through 10, or the stages. We can't skip. That would inherently take us into a reductionist system, which is what the Western system is. It's based on reductionism. Let me reduce signs, symptoms, frank diseases into a pot, into a route, into this medicine, into that medicine. So we are conditioned to think that way, even if we're like, I don't want that way, but our bodies, our nervous system wants to act on that way.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example of that? Like, that's the first time I've heard that term of reduction. I mean, I get the sense of what you're talking about, but can you give us an example on what a reductionist system is in our medical system?
Totally. So the Western medical system, in its genesis, is inherently reductionist, meaning it's going to always try to, like, its pillar is going to always try to break down these complex processes, phenomena, theories into simple parts. Because if we do that, then I can give you a pill. I can tell you need to remove this from your body, do surgery, right? I can replace that if I break it down in that way. Not to say that that's wrong all the time. It is wrong all the time, but it's not it's not wrong in general. Like, a reductionist system can help sometimes, right? Especially I break a bone, okay, I know what to do. So it's trying to bring things down to a small pathway. And you mentioned I'm used to going down this pathway. I've moved down these habits, right? And the body recognizes that. Our mind has recognized this. It's recognized the reductionist system. It's recognized the habits that I do, and I get a reward for that, like having friends that I have, right? Because I always do this with my food or eat in this way, right? Or I go to the doctor and my symptoms feel like they're less because I've completely numbed out the system that connects me to what's happening, right, in my body. So that's reductionism, like simply put. Holism considers the whole. In its definition, it requires us to see the interconnectedness as well as independence. It requires us to see how my past, present, potential future, my ancestors all come into play in this moment, right? That's a lot. But that's what holism is. And it can be scary once we open up that can of worms. But the idea is to hopefully bring in curiosity, because holism requires us to tune in, right? To tune into our complete experience and my relationship to whatever the thing is that I'm looking outside. My relationship, my experience, my relationship to this food, understanding that it's being influenced by so many things. But my experience with this thing then brings me in relationship to this thing, to this food, to this conversation with a friend, to this job. Holism also includes reductionism when necessary.
Gotcha. That's so good.
So it sounds like you are experiencing this because you're recognizing we can't skip these stages. And this is actually an interesting connection because, for example, Ayurveda, which is the practice that I see life through, the lens of which I see life through while I'm forever learning, because you can't know everything. That's whole, right? But are you, or Ayur, when you break down Ayurveda, Ayur means life, right? And then Veda means knowledge. And if we bring knowledge in an arranged system, because you mentioned like there are stages, we need to do this first, then this, then taking your supplements is a breeze. But if you go all the way to taking your supplements at the beginning, but your digestive system isn't strong enough, now you're creating more waste, more bloat, so it's not going to work. So when we systematize this knowledge, we arrange it with logic, which is a whole science in itself, right? Logic, the reasoning, that we have these very strict principles to create validity. If that knowledge is arranged systematically, like you're saying, in stages, then it becomes a science. So people are coming like, I want the end goal. And what I'm hearing from you, I want the end goal. But if you want that end goal, happiness, confidence, to be able to have a child or experience ease, then we do have to understand the whole process if you really want that, because then, we're just kind of weeding and we don't actually get to that root, and it's going to keep popping up, the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like trying to skip steps, and it's like, well, we can't kind of skip whole steps forever like this, right? And it's so funny that you mentioned supplements, because a lot of times I see, and it's like, what can I take for this? And what can I take for that? And sometimes what I love to say and remind my clients of anybody else is, you need to give supplements fertile ground to to work in. It is not the solution. It is a supplement. It's trying to help you. It needs to be connected and given from somewhere else. So sure, there are some supplements that do help and support, but it needs to be in combination with other things that you're doing. And they are part of the conversation, definitely. However, and there are certain ones you can use for certain things and things like that, but you must give them fertile ground. It doesn't mean that you get to live whatever lifestyle you want and you can take a supplement or some sort of pill and it's going to fix your problem. It's going to be the solution. It is part of the solution. So yes, I do have a lot of these conversations where they're coming with one particular goal. And I'm like, all right, we're going to get there. But first, we have to work on these building blocks to start that all build up to that goal. Even if you have not, like, it's that lack of knowledge, like not understanding that we do work as a whole and believing that it's one thing or the other, like it's just food or just exercise, which is a lot of the topics that I speak about with my clients. Whenever we speak about managing stress and setting boundaries at work, they're like, I'm sorry, we didn't really talk about food today or exercise. And I'm like, no, this is essential to your healing and the conversation, because you're not going to heal, you're not going to digest well, you're not going to sleep well and everything else if you're just letting work just trample all over you and there's no boundaries and you're not eating and you're not resting. So all of these parts are part of your whole that really affects your overall wellness.
Yes. Yes. Preach. Amen. I'm with it. That fertile ground is everything. That's everything. Gosh, I really love that when it comes to supplements. Hopefully that's really digestible for people. Yeah, it makes me think of, if you have a plant and you don't like yell at it or keep watering it. Oh my gosh, just give it more, drowned. But we want to check the soil. You want to put your finger in that little hole at the bottom. Is it dry? Does it need more water? Is this the right placement? Is the environment okay? Like we look
Yeah.
at that relates to people, right? So that's really beautiful. My question to you is, and I guess this can be, you know, as we start to round out this conversation with some tangible next steps for people. Now people are listening. Okay, holism. Okay, I can't skip steps. I can't go straight to the supplements, because if I go straight to the supplements or just the food, my digestion won't actually absorb it potentially, and it's just masking a problem or making a problem worse. Actually, could. So then, what is a good first step for someone? You mentioned sleep. You mentioned food and exercise. What does one want to do first?
So the first step I always recommend is not even food or movement, is checking in with how your body's feeling after you do every activity. I think that that's a lot of work on its own. I think that a lot of us are very disconnected and we're not aware of how you're actually feeling after, like throughout the day. We're just running on autopilot from one thing to the next. And I feel like in, you know, women of color culture, especially, or habits, is like we just push through. You just keep going. It actually, I think it's a protective mechanism not to realize how we're feeling, right? It's not a dig on anyone. I think that we're taught that and we have to practice that in order to be able to survive and to keep going and to keep up with life, right? But that quickly can lead to illness and disease and not feeling well and having, you know, a really low quality of life where you're not enjoying yourself and you probably don't even know why. So, yes, there's the food, and yes, there's the exercise and all that. But if you don't understand how to communicate with your body, then you will not understand if whatever you're eating or however you're moving is helping you or making you feel worse, if you're progressing or not. That's one of the first steps that I give people. If it's just this one tip, is like, see how you feel after you wake up, see how you feel after you eat. See how you feel while you're at work. See how you feel, like literally every single hour. See how you feel when you use the bathroom, after you take a shower. Like, be so curious with yourself to see and to start to see patterns of, oh, every time I have that coffee at an empty stomach, I have to run and I have diarrhea. You know, something like that. Oh my gosh, every time I, you know, have this particular meeting at work, I'm exhausted and I'm really nervous or something like that, right? Like we need to get past this culture of pushing through or like undoing that and realize that we're doing that. I'm very against this superwoman culture to keep us sick and stressed out and not well. So checking in with yourself is definitely the first step. Take some notes. There's always a pattern there for you. And that can allow you to see where would be a good starting point for you. Is it the food? You don't need to do everything at once. I also see this trend on like social media where people are just like ranting and complaining about how many things needs to be done to be well. And I think that that's a little toxic on its own. Like, yes, there are many things, but what's the alternative is one. Two, you don't need to do everything at once. So what is your starting point that has the biggest impact for you? And how can you build from there? Right. So yes, that'd be one.
Yoo, this is good. Okay, nice. So are you like an Ayurvedic coach by disguise? Because this is
Ooh, why'd you say
exactly,
that? Tell me more.
this is great. So what I'm hearing from you is really checking in with how the body's communicating, right?
Mhm.
How do we do that? We check in how we feel after as many things, as many points in the day as possible. I love that you said, how do I feel when I'm waking up? What's, again, like I said before, what's my relationship to how I feel when I wake up? Do I like that? Do I not? Just curiosity, no judgment. just getting curious. You're the scientist of your own life, your own body. So checking in, how do I actually feel after each thing for as many days as many things that we can actually check in on. Like you said, have a journal, whatever that is, use your phone, whatever is going to work. Doesn't matter. Just figure out a way to tune in. And then in that, there's patterns that we can discover. I mean, the patterns that we can discover just in a day, the patterns we can discover in a week, the patterns we can discover in a year and another year, because then it's in relation to the seasons, huge, which is what we started talking about before we recorded. Knowing as we transition into winter and our emotions and needs. So like there's so much that's going to build on itself when we do exactly what you said is stage one, and have that as a strong foundation for everything, being that I know how I feel after I take this thing. Because then when I start to take supplements, if I just start with the supplements, but I don't know how to check in with my body, that can go down a really, really scary rabbit hole, because that's what a lot of people come to me with. And actually where I came to my Ayurvedic doctor was like, why am I red and inflamed? It's like, well, maybe because you put a whole bunch of weird stuff in your body, didn't check in to see how it actually felt before you did another thing, then stop this thing. So it's like foundation of what you're saying. Step one, how do I feel after each thing? Can I get curious, find patterns, communicate with my body? And then I actually know what the next best thing is. I also love that you're saying that you remind us that we've been conditioned to push through. I mean, we can talk, sure, humans in general, a capitalistic system, yes, a patriarchal system, but then bring it down to women of color. Come on.
Yeah.
There's that layer of exactly what you've said too, is I know, like I have this pattern, this pathway that I'm protected. I'm protected if I push through. I don't have to feel all those things. I don't have to experience the traumas, the microaggressions that come with just being who I am in this society.
Yes.
So this grace that I'm hearing from you of like, okay, I know that this is what's been handed to me. And that like, if I just know that up front, that I've been conditioned, that my body has loved me so much to disassociate me. Safe, gosh, love you, body. I needed to be on autopilot and disassociate to handle all of the BS that's around online in front of me everywhere in this country. So if I just know that up front, there's like a little like, okay, maybe. So it's okay that I've acted this way. Now let me just feel what's here, a little bit of curiosity. Maybe I disassociate again, like probably that's what titration is. That's okay. But I'm hearing a lot of knowledge up front, the not knowing. These were blind spots that I didn't know. And now I can open up to it because this is a normal human experience to have, to choose these patterns out of safety, to choose the binge eating, right? Chronic binge eater that I've recovered from for many years. I needed that to numb out from experiences of life. And now that I'm aware of it, I'm sitting choosing to talk to Nai. I'm sitting choosing to talk to a coach or support. That means I'm actually like have a little bit more agency. I have a little bit more capacity to not have to do that again, or like every single time at least. Oh, so that's why I said you're a holistic practitioner in disguise. And that's really what all this is. If you are dealing with holism, whether it's labeled as holism, whether it's labeled Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, whatever it is all going to come back to the same ocean, right? All these rivers lead to the same. It just so happens, like I've chosen Ayurveda because there is the most amount of documentation to study from, written documentation. I mean, my family in Mexico, there's definitely holistic medicine there. Has it been documented in the same way? No, it doesn't have as much funding to like continue to expand. Same thing with the medicine everywhere in Dominican Republic, and oh my gosh, in the Amazon, come on, like,
yeah.
So we're all speaking a similar language, right? It's just finding what works, what we can communicate with.
I do find that. I do think it's similar. I know that we've spoken about Ayurveda and you helped me with my son, and that was super helpful. And then I've also worked for my son with a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. So there are different ways and different approaches and different, like I think that at the root they are similar. You are dealing with the whole person. However, I do find it useful to know about the different practices, because sometimes if one is not helping you or you need another direction or a different approach, then you can go through the different practices and modalities that are helpful. And I am all for that and open to that. And I know I referred a friend to you and to my other, peer who's a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, because of those same reasons. Like, you do know, like, past a certain point, you might need a different modality, a different specialty, someone who has personal experience with something, right? So I think that it should be part of the values and integral too, for when you're looking for practitioners or when you're looking into modalities too, because there are different avenues to approach. And I'm so lucky to know you and to know people who have other forms of modalities, because then I'm like, oh no, like I'm not maybe it's this season, like I'm not the right person to support you, but here are my friends and my peers who are able to probably better guide you through an experience that you're having. So I'm glad that you bring up the different types and the literature and all that, for sure. I usually take a approach of more of functional medicine and going deeper into the science of strictly women focused hormones, especially when it comes to perimenopause and menopause, and when you are missing periods and things like that, from a hormonal perspective, because I know there's a lot that we can do through there too, but there are other ways to approach different aspects of what's happening with us.
Yeah, thank you for speaking to that. That's so important. It's so important. Comes back to what you said is the stage one. What is going to work for me, and what person, what modality can I feel trust? Can I have courage to say yes to and stick with it when it gets hard? Because if someone has never heard of Ayurveda, Sanskrit, Indian medicine, or practiced yoga, or like, they're not going to want to talk to me, right? Like, because I can try to veer away from using these certain terms, but inherently it is what I come back to. So that can totally actually divert healing, because now I feel stress, anxiety. I don't know what she's saying. Like, so that wouldn't exactly be the fit. But like you said, functional medicine, right? There are all of these rivers that can lead to the ocean, that can lead to wherever the fruit is. And so tune in. What can I trust in? What is my body saying? Is it coming from me, or is it coming from someone who told me I should do this thing, in a container that feels safe, right? Do I want to be someone who also has a similar life experience in me, right? Like, coming from chronic eczema, this is why you referred someone to me, because I've moved through that fire. So that makes sense, right? But someone who's, again, Dominican also, and is working through PCOS or perimenopause, I've had PCOS and moved through that, but I haven't moved through perimenopause. So like, my scope, what I'm hearing from you, and my dog is barking, he's seeing something. And the scope is so important. And this is where, full circle to the beginning of like the coaching industry, much love for what we do as guides, as support, but it cannot be about us. It is not about us. It's about who we serve. If they choose our vehicle, right? If they choose us, because scope is a really important thing, and huge in, I think, in the coaching industry. I've helped one person. That means I can help anyone who like doesn't feel great. And that's like, well, they're a whole person, they're a whole universe. This is holism, essentially. Like, so we get to be really radically honest, and that's our work. And then, you as a listener, your work is also to tune into your north, to your yes or no.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Thank you, Nai. Is there anything else you want to share? Where can people find you, connect with you, the best way that they can get in touch?
Yes, thank you for having me. If you want to follow me, you're invited to go follow me on Instagram. That's where I am the most at Naihomy Jerez, Naihomyjerez. There you can find resources in the link in bio where I have a clean grocery list for the major grocery stores, and I also provide one-on-one food and hormone health coaching. And if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and book a consultation call also with link in bio, or just send me a DM. I love chatting and connecting, so I'm happy to do that as well if you have more questions.
You love this. Yeah, please follow Nai. Take a look at her page. I mean, there's so much gold, so much realness on there, and she takes us through like a lot of different scenarios that you're probably going through as well. So just having this whole other lens can be really, really juicy. So thank you for everything you do, the time, the care, the heart that you put into this work. It's really felt, and again, it's an honor to know you.
Yeah, thank you, Fern. Thank you for having me on here and everything you do as well, and for being such a big support system for me for so long.
Always.